Okay, so here's a deeper dive. I switched the settings. They are at 4K, 30 frames per second right now, and we've got the capturing of the settings. This is the current iteration of the settings. I just updated. There was a update to both the firmware and the software on 3/14/2022, so I just updated those. That process was kind of iffy. There is an auto update, not auto update, but update ability within the tool that pops up right here that says go ahead and update for the software, and it didn't work. I tried multiple times, it didn't work. I even looked at the FAQ on the website that said like, oh, disable your firewall to be able to do it. I just ended up downloading the latest version from the website, installing it as if it was new, and it updated just fine. So I didn't even have to uninstall initially. I just downloaded it as if it was new. So that's what I did. So you can see my software version and my firmware version right here. Firmware version update took quite a long time. I suspect some of that has to do with the fact that I'm not using the original cable. I was using the original cable, but after disconnecting it and then reconnecting it, it wouldn't be recognized with that cable for whatever reason, so I used a different USB-A to USB-C cable. Actually, no, I think it's just USB-C to USB-C. You can do either. If you do USB-C to USB-A, you have to do something else to make sure that you have the power, so there's like another connection to power it, and then you do data through USB-C through USB-A. Anyway, so these are the current features. This window pops up when you go to the configuration tab. That's right here, and you can see all of the different options. You can turn on auto sleep, which is brand new, and I have not used it yet, and I probably won't, but it's an option and it's good to know. The other thing about this is that they do on their website have a cable that lets you turn off power to the mic, or to the camera and the mic. So you know 100% that there is no capturing coming from your device, and it didn't come included, unfortunately. It's like $20 on the website. I think that's great that they have it as an option, annoying that you have to pay for it if you want it, but for people who are, you know, very mindful about making sure that the camera's off when not in use, I think this switch is a safer bet. So that's my thing. But so that I keep off gesture controlled lock target and gesture controlled zoom. I haven't had the gesture controlled zoom on. I've used it. I don't love it, but it works. It works exactly the way that they say it's supposed to work. Before I do that, I'm going to show you first. You can do preset positions, which I have, and mine just got refreshed because I just updated the software, but we'll set this preset location. You can also rename it. We're just going to call it that. I'll figure it out later, but this is my general framing that I usually use. So I will set my preset, and then we can fiddle with stuff. So now we have gesture controlled zoom, which is this. Automatically zooms out if people want to see my bedroom. And because I left my hand up there, it went back. But now we're going to go back to the preset position, which resets both the zoom and the gimbal location. So that's great. Turn that back off because I don't need that on. And then you can also change the amount that zoom happens based on, you know, anytime that you choose to do that. I don't want to use it, so I'm not going to. And then there's a couple different modes for tracking, whether you want just a normal mode. If you want headroom mode, that just means that instead of tracking you here, like, it'll give you a little bit more headroom. To show you what the tracking does look like, this is what it looks like. Here we go. So this is about the framing that's in the standard framing. So headroom mode would give you more headroom, obviously. And then motion mode is supposedly for, you know, Zumba instructors. I, as a professional who works from home, do not use the tracking mode very often at all, because my line of work is not something that generally I need to be showing things in the room that I'm in. I'm more like joining meetings remotely. But the only benefit that it does have, and excuse my room, my guest room here, but the only benefit that it does have is it gives cat camera. So I can walk over to wherever my my cats are if people want to know where my cats are, and I can show them off. So that's the benefit of the tracking. I know that that's really silly, but that's how I use it. I'm going to go back to my preset position here, and I'm going to turn tracking off because I don't want it to track me anymore. I just want to keep it at my nice preset position. HDR, I don't see a huge benefit in. You can see how, at least with this lighting, it doesn't necessarily look better. Some of the textures look smoother and some of them look more grainy. I'm going to turn it off for now, and when I turn on better lighting, we'll see if there's a better impact there. The autofocus is okay. I wouldn't say it's the best, but it's okay. I do have times occasionally where I will have moved and I wish that it would be a little bit more sensitive, and it's not. Face focus, I think, is new to the recent update, and I'm not sure what it does. Same for face AE is brand new. Okay, so it looks like this is tracking, but it is better for just your face. So that's probably the setting that you would use if you're, say, a Twitch streamer and you have your head in a little bubble. That would be something that you would want to use probably instead of the regular tracking. Screen mode isn't clear to me either. I'm assuming that's just the orientation. And then you can even set the gimbal initial position. So if I wanted to get really granular, I could do like, this is my preset position. Instead of having it be a preset, I could just make it the position that it opens up in when I open up. Oh, you can't see, it opened up another window that basically shows this same interface, but allows you to edit it and then save it as a initial position. Noise reduction, if we turn that off, I don't see a big impact there. And then there's some global hotkeys. I really like that you can turn the global hotkeys on or off. It does give you a list of what the global hotkeys are, as well as the ability to use a remote control. And so this, if you click on this, it will give you this little question mark. It gives you the list of global hotkeys, but at the same time, you may already have your own hotkeys that you're using, whether you are streaming, so you have hotkeys to transition in maybe OBS, or maybe you're a graphic designer and you use hotkeys for Photoshop, something like that. So knowing what they are, and then just being able to turn them off if you think that that's going to interfere with what you're doing. I think that's really great. Here are the, oh, you can't see the available languages are English, German, right, Deutsch, Espanol, so Spanish, and then I unfortunately am not great at identifying types of Chinese, whether it's Cantonese, Mandarin. There are 3 that look similar to me, and I can't identify which one, and I can't display it either because the drop-down menu is not showing up, but I'm sure it's on their website. Yeah, so that's what these all are. The gimbal is very sensitive. You can click, 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 right, to move, or you can click and hold. So you can go, or you can click and move around and navigate. So those are your 3 options. Always go back to my preset. There are only 3 presets available. And then if you can either put the device to sleep by either hitting the sleep button, and if you hit the sleep button, then there is a green indicator light on the camera that will go dark, or you can just turn the gimbal all the way down so that it now is facing downward, and it will automatically turn off, and then you'll see the light turn off. So those are the options. So those are the features. And then next I am going to show different lighting conditions. One thing I love about this camera, and I'm going to also do it in contrast to another camera, is how adaptive it is at lighting conditions. It looks really, like, shockingly good. So yeah, so let's do a couple different lighting conditions. This is natural light, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours before sunset. I'm in the Pacific Northwest. It's an overcast day. So this is a fully natural light, no other light sources on in the room, and it still looks pretty darn good. This is not how I normally work. I normally work in a very controlled environment, so I will kind of take you through some of those steps. And at very least, we don't need these anymore for now. So let's turn on some of the lights, and then you can see the different lighting conditions. And I basically have a light, a big key light, and then I have backlighting. So I'll go through some of that. So here is this light, and you can see it adjusts, and it looks pretty darn good. And that lamp is on at full, but I have smart lights, so I can always lower them if I have to. Here's the other light that I often use. And I usually, because I like to be in a very controlled environment, I will close my blackout blinds, so I'll show you that. Now that we cut out all of that natural light, it does look very different, but it's adjusted pretty well, other than I'm a little bit overexposed. You can see the shininess, which you can tweak if you want to do like some brightness changing or anything like that. You can, and you can also manually change the exposure, which I will do after I've gotten all of my lighting and everything perfected. Again, I use backlighting, so that makes a significant difference in my video. This is what my backlighting looks like. And it's just on a little stand behind me with my standing desk, and so that makes a big difference as well. So this is one possible configuration of my lighting. The other thing that I do is sometimes I turn this one off. And actually, real quick, I will show you if I'm only backlit. Ooh. So this is a really dim condition for me. I have very little light coming from in front of me and a lot of light from behind me. This is one of the probably most challenging situations for a camera, and you can see that the video quality does suffer for lack of light, but it adapted really quickly to the new lighting environment, so that's really great. And so now I'm going to go ahead and turn that lamp back on. Of course, now it doesn't want to, but we'll turn some other lighting sources on, get like as bright as we can. So this is a very bright key light that I've just started using. So we'll turn the key light on, and you can see here, this is still maybe not quite enough light. You can still see like some shadows. This is why I usually use at least another light that's coming from the opposite direction. This one is coming from this direction. I have one more light that comes on from this direction. And now this is closer to my, ideal lighting environment. I am still a little bit shiny, and some of that is reflection, right? A good deal of that is reflection from my skin, versus being overexposed, where overexposure is like big white patches usually that pop up here, and that's a little bit different. So this looks pretty darn good. I am going to go ahead and configure my video, and let me be sure to capture that as well so that you can see the changes that I'm making as I'm making them. Here we go. So these are the changes that I'm going to go ahead and make. So you can see it looks pretty good. This is all for the most part on auto. My white balance is on auto. Usually white balance is okay, but I do find myself occasionally fiddling with white balance if maybe the color of my shirt leans more blue that day. So you can pick up I think it was like a cat hair or something that fell. Yeah, if I'm wearing, I think it's more blue because I have a gray background and a blue shirt. I think that's when white balance starts to struggle. So in that case, I do manually change my white balance, which you can do and is not too bad. And I can still get to a pretty good place usually on my own manually if I have to. But the auto white balance is quite good. And backlight compensation is not on, and actually I've never paid attention if that happens. I guess I would have to have backlighting, and I'm not going to mess with that because I don't really need it. I will almost always be front lit. So here it shows you the actual zoom, the number in here, but also you can see that, or you could see earlier where the zoom was on the regular software interface. I have exposure on auto, but this one I think is just the only one that's really important to show you what the manual steps look like and whether or not it's easy or hard and what it looks like, because I am someone who is likely to use manual exposure sometimes. So here is what the manual exposure is like. There we go. So it's not as good, right? Which is I think normal for webcams in general, is that their built-in capability for adjusting to light is almost always going to be better. My problem historically has been that in my job I move a lot, and so if it is too sensitive, then I find myself having to use manual exposure settings instead of allowing it to adjust on its own. So sometimes I will use manual exposure. Fortunately, I don't generally have to use that with the OBSBOT camera, which is nice. But you can see these are the different steps, right? So if I really want to tweak stuff, you know, I can get up here if I really wanted to, and then, you know, change my brightness, get my brightness down. That doesn't look very good. That doesn't look good at all. This step right here is probably the step that I would want. Now it looks too dark because I lowered the brightness. But I will say that one of the reasons that this looks as good as it does, even when I turn off auto exposure, is because I'm so well lit. If I was in a poor lighting environment, I might find myself wanting to get a little more granular with this setting and use the manual settings, but yeah. And there, now it's back on and it looks good. So, and you can hit apply and all of that fun stuff. So this is what it looks like in all of those different various lighting environments. I think it looks great in pretty much all of them, which is really nice. A lot of people don't work in my situation, which is having a lot of front lighting, very intentional, curated environment, blackout blinds, all of that. A lot of people don't do that, but some people do. So I wanted to be able to show both environments and both situations. I just knocked down my backlighting plug, so it went out. And you can see that it adapts as the light changes, and it adapts like pretty much right away, which is great, and it doesn't fiddle too much, which I really like.